it's your man 50 grand, the one who has the absolute plan for this year 2025, because as I've been saying, this year is not only just my year, but it's the year of every single member of the Rich team. Richie Rich is back in the building with another retrospective review, and I just want to say a big shout out to the Rich team. We are so close to getting the big one, the 10k subscribers. But what you can do, folks, is you can like, comment, share, and subscribe, and definitely check me out on social media. And as I said, I am doing requests. I would love to hear your feedback on any reviews that you would love for me to do. Right, so folks, on this retrospective review, I thought it was definitely apropos after reviewing a really heartwarming feel-good movie, Strictly Business. I thought the movie that was very similar, very reminiscent to that film is the 1992 American comedy, you could say comedy drama film, comedy action film starring the Wayans brothers, Damon and Marlon Wayans. It can only possibly be Mo Money, Mo Money, Mo Money from 1992. Mo Money that came out in 1992, directed by Peter MacDonald, and starring the three principal main actors in this. The Wayans brothers also featuring the beautiful Stacey Dash. I'm gonna run on the cast later, but my first impressions on Mo Money. So I may be one of the few, like the minority, who really doesn't dig this movie. I'm just someone who, from the first time I saw Mo Money, which was during the lockdown. So this is like about 2025, so possibly like 4 or 5 years ago. I saw Mo Money for the first time, and I always thought it was just mediocre. There's anything to take away from. When I watched it just recently now, just to prepare for this review, I absolutely, positively cannot stand this film. I just feel like it's funny. Like, there's some movies I've said like it's so bad, it's so good. Like when I talk about I Got the Hookup, I feel this one is just as bad movies, but it's good. There's some parts you can take away from it. In this film, I feel like the biggest thing that I noticed with this movie is just how the continuity in this film and the way they transition to different scenes, it just doesn't make sense. They don't really have a balance of this film, because this film is supposed to be an action comedy. But the way the movie starts off, and the way the movie starts and it changes from scene to scene, it doesn't really balance the comedy drama and action aspects of this film, and you pretty much, in my opinion, get like a mess of a movie. But I'm gonna go into more details why for me personally, it's just not one of my favorite Wayans production projects. Right, okay, so as I said, Mo Money starring this. So if we go back before I even talk about the main cast, of course, when you're speaking about Mo Money, especially, like the biggest thing that came out, of course, in the 90s period was the In Living Color sketch comedy series. To many, especially someone who grew up in the 90s, this is possibly the greatest sketch comedy series of all time. I believe the only thing that can possibly rival this is Chappelle's Show that came out a decade after. But with the In Living Color, what's so great about the series is the the sketch comedy series, is that it was very great at taking fun of pop culture at the time. You had many skits that did impersonations of like music artists like Vanilla Ice, Whitney Houston, Vanessa Williams, of course Michael Jackson. They also did impressions of like famous movies and actors like Arsenio Hall. Keith Ivory Williams used to do a spot-on impression of Arsenio Hall, and many impressions of I remember they had the Home Alone skit, Jim Carrey, who was playing like Pee Wee Herman, and they even did Dracula. So you had like this pretty much like all-star, and remember at this time in the 90s, like a lot of these actors were just getting their breaks in Hollywood. Jim Carrey, Tommy Davidson, the Wayans brothers, Jennifer Lopez, Jamie Foxx, the list goes on and on of these like actors who became like these mainstay names in Hollywood, and they all came from this show. And that it was just like I said, Living Color to me, and I believe to a lot of people, always felt like a right place, right time series. And the funny thing is, anytime I type in Living Color, it always gets confused with the rock band that made CM Punk's theme tune called The Personality. So it's In Living Color and In Living Color. That's pretty much like the backstory with like the Wayans, because the Wayans brothers made, I believe it was Keenan Ivory Wayans who originally had the idea to make In Living Color, because SNL pretty much was just this all-white cast, and one of the good things with In Living Color is it really brought out diversity. One of the best parts of the In Living Color series is the Fly Girls. They had a mixture of black, white, Asian, Dominican. You had all these ethnic girls that you would never ever see in the SNL programming, and it even complemented when you saw the cast of like different ethnicities on an NBC, on a broadcasted television series 30 years ago. It was amazing because you weren't seeing that. So with Mo Money actually comes from a skit that came in the In Living Color series. Talking now specifically Damon Wayans. Damon Wayans used to play this character on the In Living Color series, that one who goes, the homeless guy that he portrays in the beginning of Mo Money. And I believe the skit got like so much praise and so much people liked it. The idea for this to become like a full blown movie, and also what ties onto this is Damon Wayans, which pretty much the whole story revolves around him, is he had actually dropped out of high school and he got a job pretty much as a mailroom clerk, and the whole like credit card cons that him and his brother do in this, it was actually what really happened to him before he actually made it big in Hollywood. So it pretty much is like a little kind of biographical in a weird way of like Damon Wayans' history before he actually made it to you could say a star eventually. And that goes on to, of course, speaking on Damon Wayans, right? I think there's a lot of people who always believe that of all the Wayans brothers, Keenan, Sean, Marlon, and Damon, you got the sister there, Kim Wayans, and there may be more. Chappelle said there's more Wayans brothers. Damon Wayans always felt like the main, he always felt like the funniest of the Wayans brothers, and he felt like, of all of them, he felt like the one who actually did well when it came to the movies and the TV sitcoms. Damon Wayans, when In Living Color was on, he appeared in this movie, and the year before this he also appeared in The Last Boy Scout, which is again a fantastic movie with him starring alongside Bruce Willis, and it has that action essence that like the Die Hard films had together. And this was a big movie, especially for Damon Wayans, who was just getting his break in Living Color. So yeah, Damon starred in this. He's also starred in Major Pain, which came out in 1995. And he also starred in The Great White Hype with Samuel L. Jackson with that crazy white friend, which I actually sort of dig that movie. But I believe Damon Wayans really hit it big in the early 2000s when he starred in My Wife and Kids, playing Michael Kyle. And it really brought like those black family sitcoms, which started all the way from like you could say Cosby Show, which really hit big. Then you go into the 90s of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I always felt My Wife and Kids really took the mantle, took the baton, and really was the best like black sitcom of the 2000s. You could then say maybe Blackish then took the roles for the 2010s, but I definitely feel Damon Wayans, for like his body of work, I think he really did the best of the Wayans brothers, because usually when you see the Wayans, it's always them together. Sean and Marlon are usually together. Keenan was of course in the In Living Color series, and Keenan had some movies there, Low Down Dirty Shame, I think that's his main one, and he has a few other ones, but I feel like Damon just felt like of all the Wayans, he just felt like the most standout of all of them. Damon Wayans playing Johnny Stewart is tagged alongside Marlon Wayans, who's playing Seymour. Marlon Wayans is playing Seymour Stewart, like his younger brother, just like he is in the movie. Marlon Wayans is someone who, again, he's funny, he's comedic. His comedy always felt like it's more of a physical comedy. It's pretty much like a black version of Jim Carrey. And you see him, this is Marlon Wayans, like straight up. He would have been 20s at this time. So he was the youngest one. So as you believe Marlon Wayans is eccentric even now, he was super, super eccentric even then. And again, Marlon Wayans was just someone, I first saw him of like a lot of people in the Wayans Brothers series that came out in the mid 90s to late 90s, and then of course in the scary movie films, and then going into of course the White Chicks, which I'm begging they finally do a sequel. Oh, you want to talk about bumpers? You want to talk about bumpers? I love that film. Did I say hot? I meant not. Yeah, so Marlon Wayans usually most of the times in these projects has been tagging along with his brother Sean Williams. How could I possibly forget their big debut together, the brothers alongside in this Don't Be a Menace that came out in 1995. So Marlon Wayans in this, he pretty does a cool job for, he's just pretty much playing the young brother to Damon, Johnny's character, and he's just basically, he's inexperienced, he gets the short end of the stick. He provides a lot of comedy that you've seen Marlon play this character in a lot of his other films, because after the success of In Living Color, like all of these actors were able to branch out. Like the Wayans brothers were just like the younger Wayans brothers, Sean and Marlon, were just really breaking their foot through the door. They even, like I said, exploded after this. And I believe even Sean and Marlon was the one who was getting more movies. He appeared in The Sixth Man, and he also appeared in one of my favorite movies, Senseless. Yeah. Oh, right. So so the leading lady from this is the most. So the leading lady in More Money is played by the beautiful Stacey Dash, who was just getting her kickstart into the movies around her early 20s. Stacey Dash, if you know, she also appeared in Clueless, which I believe she's most notable from. And she didn't really go on to big movies after the 90s period. I believe she had a few cameos. You remember her as she had a guest starring role, or you could say collaboration, featuring Kanye West in All Falls Down. Stacey Dash was the hot chick in there. Stacey Dash playing Amber Evans, who is Stacey Dash, who basically works in a company that Stacey Dash playing Amber Evans, who works in the company that Damon, playing Johnny, wants to basically get a job in just to get more closer to the beautiful Amber. Does a terrific job. She's smart, she's beautiful, very like that upper echelon beautiful woman. One thing I love with More Money is definitely the fashion that is brought in here. As I've said many times, it compares a lot to Strictly Business, and of course that 90s hip era that is in here is amazing. Right, so More Money, what the story mainly is about is that in the first opening scene, Ted Forrest, who works for this Dynasty Club, is basically murdered by the main antagonist of this film, Keith Heading. He's the guy who is in charge of the security at the company that Amber was working in, Stacey Dash, and then later on Johnny gets a job in there. He murders John DeYale on the street, and they basically switch like a tape just before the cops can show and actually identify that this was the one who committed this awful crime. They then transitions basically to where like Johnny and also Seymour are, and they're basically on the streets of New York, where pretty much is said, and they're basically hustling. They're doing other ways just to make money and different scams in so many like different types of ways. You find out basically that Damon, Johnny's character, his dad was a cop, and his cop actually worked with so his dad was a cop that actually worked with Lieutenant Walsh, played by Josh Santos, and many times through the film he tells him like how good your dad was as a cop. He saved his life. I am in debt to him, and that's why I'm here to oversee your ass. So as like Johnny meets the very beautiful Amber, in the streets whilst he's running these scams. That's when he decides like, yo, I need to step up, I want to get more money, more money, more money. And he then basically looks to get a job as a mailroom clerk inside the same company that Amber works in. The only worst thing is, once he gets the job inside the mailroom clerk, as a mailroom clerk, he has to start at the very bottom of the deck. And Amber actually already has a boyfriend, a very stuck-up, pompous guy, and his name is... Yeah, so the boyfriend is played by Harry J. Lennox, who's playing Tom Dilton. Harry J. Lennox, you've seen him in many roles throughout the 90s. He also played in one of my favorite movies, The Five Heartbeats. He basically plays Amber's stuck-up boyfriend, who basically believes because of his wealth and his status, he doesn't need to waste time with commoners such as the brothers Damon and Marlon, John and Seymour. Similar to Strictly Business, once Johnny locks eyes on the beautiful Stacey Dash, Amber, that becomes his whole intention. He just has to score with this woman, and he will do everything, so much so he will become working a mailroom clerk just to get the attention of this beautiful damsel. So once Amber actually comes to her senses and she leaves Tom, this allows room for Johnny to enter in and become her man. And it's the same time, basically, with his brother's help, Johnny and Seymour, they're able to basically charge large amounts of money to cards with the intention of like impressing Amber, because these like are broken and broke, as Andrew Tate says, they are brokies. So once they're getting this money from these legal scam from these cards, they get this money and they're basically able to look fly and able to get more money. They go on a wild shopping spree, they're getting nice clothes, nice jewelry, nice watches, able to impress the beautiful Amber. So once the brothers get involved into this scam, this leaves them into, you could say, issues and situations with the main antagonist Keith, who's played by John Deal, who's the main antagonist. So the one who appears in the beginning of this film is the one who's the security in the company. He finds out what Johnny and Seymour were trying to do. He tries to find a way to convince them to say like, you should try join my crew, my organizations, but they don't comply. So from there it means that they're basically enemies. So much so that when so once this happens and like the brothers don't really accept Keith's offer, they try to do the scam again. Seymour actually goes into a jewelry store, and he tries to again steal another ring with those scams, but the alarm goes on and it finds out that credit card is fake, is false, and the alarm comes on and Seymour actually gets caught by the security guard, and he actually gets caught by the security, and then he gets questioned by the police. So what happens is the police force, the one under Lieutenant Walsh, they were already basically overlooking and overseeing all of Keith's like operation. They had been like basically just waiting for this to happen. So they basically instruct Seymour to wear a wire to be tapped so he could go meet Keith and basically get like the lowdown of what's his next operation planning, a sting. Basically put someone inside to basically find out what they're gonna able to do next. And you get like pretty much the big action scene of the film where Lieutenant Walsh, who gets like very furious about this operation, Keith has a hitman who tries to basically kill Johnny because Johnny didn't comply about joining his organization, and he blackmails him until he basically shoots Lieutenant Walsh in the arm. Keith basically kidnaps Seymour, and Johnny is basically on the run. He's basically on the run trying to basically get Keith and save his brother. Keith then tries basically to kill Johnny like on the shoulder when he's like right up in front of him, and they have this final basically kind of climactic fight, and Johnny is successfully able to defeat the antagonist of this film, Keith, by hanging him. And then basically once it's the closing credits of this film, Seymour and the beautiful Amber visit Johnny, who's lying in the hospital injured, and they decide to settle down. It's pretty much the movie of Mo Money. Alright, so before we go into my final thoughts, let me give you my opinion on the Mo Money soundtrack. Yeah, so the soundtrack basically came out same year, same name, and they actually peaked 6 on the Billboard chart, Billboard 200 chart in September 1992. And you had great music that came from James Harris. You had music from Janet Jackson, Ralph Trevzon, MC Lyte, Johnny Gill, Public Enemy, Flavor Flav, and you also had Color Me Bad, who again very noticeable for appearing on the New Jack City soundtrack. And the soundtrack of this film, best way to describe it, is very colorful. A lot of the music again fits off that New Jack swing ever, and of all that again hip jive and you don't stop, that type of era of music and that feel of the early 90s was basically presented in this soundtrack. And to be honest, I actually prefer the soundtrack than the movie. So as difficult as it was to do this review on Mo Money, like my camera actually wasn't on the best quality and I had to put my microphone and do this audio, it's as difficult as this film is. This is just not a film I can honestly recommend, and I'll tell you the reasons why. A lot of similarities in this film are with Strictly Business, but Strictly Business, even though it's a feel-good fun movie, it had certain structure to that film. You could definitely tell, like if someone tells me like the synopsis of Strictly Business of you got this guy in the real estate business who's looking to become partners, he meets the beautiful Halle Berry, and basically his interest just goes in her, but he also wants to move up in his corporation. And also Halle Berry's character and Tommy Davidson, they also have that ambition of where Tommy Davidson's character is looking to move up from the mailroom to a higher position, and Halle Berry's character is looking to get her own club and be her own boss business. So someone can easily describe Strictly Business and you can know the plot. Even after watching Mo Money now for the second, third time, I still don't really get the sense and meaning to this. This is not a film I can ever relate to, or even when I finish watching, I can be like, yeah, I really got the idea of this film, because it pretty much is basically Damon, Johnny, he sees Amber, and he's instead of doing the scams, he meets the Amber and he does all these other type of scams, this credit card fraud, to basically impress Amber, and Marlon just tags along. And it's just a movie. It feels like it's a skit, which is funny that the skit came from In Living Color. That's what inspired it, and that's what they used to make this feature film. And I just don't have like that many like highlights or positive or any type of rewarding things to say about this film. I mean, the good points is definitely Damon in this, him playing leading role is great. Of course, it's always nice to see Marlon. Them as a duo, I think the film would have been better if it was either Keenan and Damon, or it should have either just been Marlon and Sean, because I believe that's where the chemistry lies better with the brothers, when it's the two older and the two younger ones together, like you saw in White Chicks, or even in the In Living Color series, the Homeboy Shopping Network, where it was Keenan and Damon. It should have been like that. It's nice. I mean, it really is nice seeing Stacey Dash, because she was incredibly beautiful this, and she does well as being the eye candy. But it would have been nice if you saw pretty much more of her. I believe she falls way too easily for Johnny Damon's character after she leaves that pompous guy that Tim was playing. So all in all, Mo Money just feels like a pretty much low graded Strictly Business. It's not a film I can even say I really enjoy watching. It was just something that I just said I would review this just because I just reviewed Strictly Business and I loved it so much. I said let me just check out Mo Money. Yeah, but I mean, again, the setting is good. It's always good to see the colorful fashion of the 90s, and I've said this many times, Stacey Dash is absolutely beautiful in this film. If you like the Wayans brothers, to be honest, there are better Wayans brothers films than this. I would rather watch Don't Be a Menace than this. Scary Movie, White Chicks, and even Damon has better films than this. But it's not a movie for me personally. I can recommend. You'd be better watching episodes of the In Living Color. It's not really a strong film in my opinion, but again, that's my thoughts on Mo Money. Let me know your opinions and thoughts about this. Do you agree what I said about this film? What did you think of the principal characters? What did you think about the settings? What did you think about the story? Put it down in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And just remember that success, oh yes, is a sniff away. Peace.